call to order. Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. So this is the meeting of the Executive Committee. We are called to order. Thank you all for being here. I think this is the first Executive Committee meeting, certainly that I've been a part of over the past year and a half. We will start by calling roll, and I will turn it over to Madam Secretary.
Chairwoman
and
Scarlett?
also, just to remind everyone, please state whether you're in the present, if anyone else is in the room with you. And to answer the question, yes, I'm here and nobody's in the room.
Commissioner Allman?
Present, nobody's with me.
Commissioner Stafford?
Present, and I am alone in the room.
Chairwoman, you have 3 members present and a quorum.
Okay. I will remind you guys that Dakasha Witten resigned as she is joining the TSU board, so it is all 3 of us to have a big conversation. This should be really, really quick. So we do have to do a statement of necessity, and so I will pass it back over to Madam Secretary to read the statement, please.
Committee members, all members are participating electronically today. As such, Tennessee Code annotated 844-108B2 requires that the committee make a determination that a necessity exists in order for a quorum of members to participate by electronic or other means of communication. A necessity means that the matters to be considered by a public body at a meeting require timely action by the board, that physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the time period requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. In this case, 2 facts support a determination of necessity. First, today's agenda items require timely action by this committee to bring a recommendation for discussion by the full commission for the May 16, 2024 THEC meeting. Second, scheduling conflicts and other commitments prevented a quorum of members from being physically present today.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to determine that a necessity exists as recited in the statement?
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairwoman Scarlett?
Aye.
Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Stafford?
Aye.
Chairwoman,
right.
you have 3 ayes.
That motion carries. I do want to welcome Secretary Hargett. I would love to see his shining face, and Commissioner Coben to the conversation as well. So thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it. So the next, we're going to adopt the agenda with no questions or objections. I will entertain a motion in a second to adopt the agenda for today's meetings.
So moved.
Second.
No objection. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairwoman Scarlett?
Aye.
Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Stafford?
Aye.
Chairwoman, you have 3 ayes.
Excellent. Motion carries. Dr. Gentile, do we have any requests for public comment?
No, Chair Scarlett, we do not have any, no public comments requests.
All right, we will move on. The first item on our agenda is the commission officer terms and term limits. I'd like to ask Scott Sloan, our general counsel, to provide an overview of the commission's current rules regarding the officer terms. Mr. Sloan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The policy manual that, so first of all, the commission has full latitude to set up its parliamentary structure as it deems appropriate. And currently with regard to terms, we have 3, possibly 4 full-time officer positions, a chair, 2 vice chairs, and then a secretary position. There is current language that would allow the secretary position to also be one of the vice chairs concurrently. Terms are 1 year, and those positions are elected each year at our summer meeting, and that is what is currently in the policy.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Sloan. I appreciate it. I'll start this conversation, and I'll tell you why I thought it was important for us to add this to the agenda and then open it up for conversation. A couple of years ago, I guess a year and a half ago, Evan, I think he was sailing somewhere in Alaska, and we voted him to be a chairman again. And he graciously accepted, but then kind of took a step back and realized he had been chair for 7 years. And some of you have been involved in the commission during that 7 years, and some of us have not been involved during that entire 7 years. And so it brought up a series of my exploring kind of what other commissions are doing when it comes to the executive positions and how long they're in office, or do they have a break. And the only other group that seemed to make logical sense as far as additional information is talking with Sarah Morrison, the State Board of Education. And the way they have their terms set up, the same sort of officer setup as that we have, they do 2-year terms, and there's no break. You can consistently be reelected into those positions. And so I guess it's more of a question of, do we want to allow people in the executive positions, the commissioners in the executive positions, to continue that year after year after year? Or do we want to make sure that we're spreading some of that executive decisioning across the entire commission? And so a couple of different options you might want to consider. One is, do you want to have the executive roles to be 1 year or 2 years? Do you want those to be allowed to be consecutive? So meaning that you could have 2 consecutive terms and then you have to take a term off before you get reelected. And I take that in from some of my other board experience, where you can be an executive officer for a period of 2 terms, but then you have to have some sort of break and allow other voices to come into that position before potentially being reelected. And so I just want to open up the conversation. I don't want this to be, overburdensome for any one particular individual. And I also want to make sure that we've got good voice across the entire commission. So that is what I just want to have a conversation about, to see what you guys think about time and role, and whether we should have term limits of any sort. So I'll open it up to conversation based on your experience.
Chairwoman Scarlett, I appreciate you bringing the topic up. I haven't thought about it directly, but I think it's a good question. When I think about other boards that I sit on, as each of you probably do as well, there are different ways of the governance is carried out. I do think, though, that for healthy governance, it is important to have a change in the leadership periodically. And so I would favor some thought of a structure that at least allows the opportunity for there to be a rotation, or at least a limitation on how long someone serves in one particular role. I feel like I've been in this role as vice chair now for probably about 5 years, and I think it would be good to have someone else serve in that role rather than me at some point, whether it's this year or next year. So, I mean, I do favor some sort of a consideration of a limitation. How we do that, I'm not sure the best way to go about that, whether it's 1 year or 2 year or what have you.
Yeah.
I do agree. I think having some kind of a term limit, if you will, is good and is important to have. I don't know that 1 year, that's the only thing I will say, because I'm not sure what the right amount of time would be, but I don't know that 1 year is enough. I don't know if 2 years or even 3, but I don't know that 1 year is enough.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think probably a minimum of 2, no more than 4.
Right.
So since we have other commissioners on the line, I welcome Secretary Hargett and Commissioner Coben. If you've got any comments on this as well, I'm happy for you guys to pop off onto video and provide some input.
Thank you, Chairman Scarlett. I would love to speak to this. 1 year might be too little, 2 years might be just right, considering what each of our terms are on the commission as a whole. 2 years seems just about right. I had a question when I first saw the notification of this meeting, and I don't know how this all happened, but my question was, I thought each of our vice presidents were supposed to come from different parts of the 3 grand divisions of the state, so that you as chairman would be from Middle Tennessee, but we seem to have 2 from the Western Division and no officers from the Eastern Division.
No, so Dakasha Winton just resigned from the board
The
last month to
TSU.
join
Yeah.
the TSU board, and so we are in absence of a East representative
Mhm.
on the commission at this point.
Okay. Okay. So
Commissioner Winton serves as the secretary.
okay,
Wharton.
that's what I was going to say. It was.
Coleman.
It's always been. AC has been the secretary.
Right.
Correct. Okay. All right. That was my very first question when I saw notification of this. I love the idea of term limits, and I think moving it around from commissioner to commissioner is healthy for all of our engagement and our deeper understanding of what our role is. And I think it will make us a stronger commission in the long run. Good decisions.
I agree.
Thank you, Commissioner. Secretary, I give you one last chance. Okay, no, you're loved.
He's off mute.
It took me a second to unmute myself, but I would echo what Vernon said. I tend to probably the right, but
Secretary Hargett, I'm sorry, we're having a slightly hard time hearing your voice. It's kind of-
how about now?
That's much better, thank you.
I'm sorry, let me get a little closer to the phone. I tend to err on the side of thinking 2 years is probably that sweet spot. I could probably be convinced that maybe 3 years would be okay, but I would probably say 2 would be the time. And I think you're right on target about having some type of term limits instituted to the organization.
What do you all think? So it sounds like we're all on the 2-year time frame with some sort of term limit. What do you think about asking the team at THEC to pull together some language for us to review in our August meeting? I'm correct, Scott will probably correct me on that. To look at term limit, term served as being two-year terms, and then requiring at least one term off before that person has the potential of being reelected to another executive position. Is that, what do you all think about that?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I just wonder, is 4 years too long? Yeah, I hear what Secretary Hargett said and Commissioner Coben, so whether we want to restrict it to less than that, but I don't know how you do that if you start off with a 2-year term.
Alternatively, we continue down the 1-year term pathway and limited it like, the third term, you can't get back on for another term or something like that, another year. But it sounds like 2 years seems to
Madam
make more
Chairman?
logical sense. Yes.
Could we ask what you think would work the best? I mean, what are your feelings? You probably are leaning one way or another.
Well, so in looking at what the state board does, the state board has 2-year terms. So I do think there's value in that. I think it provides a little bit more consistency for I'm going to guess, I haven't actually asked this of Dr. Gentile or anyone else on the staff, but it seems like it could provide a little bit more consistency for the staff and also for the commission. So I do agree with all of you when it comes to 2 years. The state board, which is my kind of one go-to right now, is they can be reelected over and over and over again. There's no term limit for that reelection. My concern with that is the concern that if we have the same person in place for a potential of 12 years, because if you have 2 6-year terms, that just seems like a lot. And I do believe in having other voices from across the state, given the different backgrounds of the people that sit on the commission. I think there's a lot of value for that in any of the executive positions. So I do think there's value in being able to move it around. And it all, in the end, it will depend on what who the commission votes into the individual roles. My gut feeling would suggest that we propose 2-year terms, and after that second term requires at least one term off of executive role.
So we would not require 2-year terms, but 2 2-year terms, but say that if someone could serve for 2 2-year terms, So they could actually not be reelected after their first 2-year term.
That's correct. So if someone comes in there and they're just like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, then they, we don't want that person to be.
Well, hopefully we don't wait 2 years
Right?
for that to happen.
But we do, I think we want some sort of consistency. But in the end, let's say that person, decides they're rolling off. Maybe they are not, reappointed, or maybe, there could be a variety of reasons why the person does not remain on the board. And so having that 2-year consistency, but then knowing that there'll be a re-election in the second year.
That's a good idea.
And that re-election could appoint the same team of people, or that re-election could not.
Right.
I think it depends on the will of the commission.
Yeah, I'd be supportive of that.
Same.
Okay.
Any other comments, Scott? I would love to hear your perspective on what the next steps would be on something like this.
Yes, ma'am. So what I'm hearing is we would shift the recommendation from this committee, which of course these are just information items. There's no votes today.
Correct.
We will, per your request, prepare that formal language and share that probably in the next 30 days with all of the commission members, and thereafter share that, get that out, and then address this policy modification at the August meeting, which just happens to coincide with our officer elections at that point. So we can get that policy out there, have it adopted, and begin whatever the commission decides at that meeting.
Scott, does it make sense for this to go into effect at the same meeting that we're having the elections, or does it make sense for us to wait a year and then have it go into effect?
That's up to you, but there's a provision in the current policy where we can adopt a policy that takes effect immediately when that policy is shared with the commission members no less than 10 days before that meeting. So that is your call and the other members, but we can move that quickly if the will is there to immediately implement.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Any other comments, either from executive committee or Commissioner Coben or Secretary Hargett?
I just want to say, excuse me, please, if I stepped on somebody while they were speaking a few minutes ago when I asked your opinion. Where I am, we're having terrible storms, and my sound went out on my laptop, and I thought no one was speaking. I apologize if I came in.
You're all good, Phil.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I also want to add that we have this on our agenda for next week to talk in front of the whole commission, just to summarize this conversation too.
Okay, that would be fantastic. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So the next item on our calendar is the committee structure. Scott, Mr. Sloan, would you please provide us an overview of the commission's current rules regarding committee structure?
Yes, ma'am. So currently there are, we have an audit committee, of course, and then there is this committee that is drafted up in the policy. As you will all recall, the committees that we're utilizing for academics and fiscal right now are part of the advisory committee option that exists in the policy. And we are just about 12 months in to the initiation. Part of the discussion around the formation of that committee, those two committees was we would take a look at them, we would utilize them through the advisory committee channel, and then after 12 months or thereabouts, take a look at whether the will exists to make those committees permanent. We would then, if that's what the decision was, we would utilize, and some folks refer to it as a charter, but we would outline in the policy the composition of that committee and their scope of recommendations for the full commissions, or for the full commission.
Okay. I have only heard positive things from commission members and from staff about these committees. I would love to hear y'all's perspective about these committees, because if it makes sense for us to create charters for them. And that was a request that Secretary or that Treasurer Liller had last August, is that he has very clear understanding of what the charter is for each of these committees. And if that's the case, we would request the staff at THEC to create those charters for us in preparation to approve them as a 12-month period. But before going down that pathway, I really welcome that conversation. I'd love to hear what you all have heard or what you think about these committees so far.
I've actually found them favorable. I think they're beneficial to us as a commission as a whole, because it allows us to really deep dive into some of the specific topics and get more clarity before we get into a full commission meeting. And even though we're not all on each of the committees, obviously they're all open for us to attend at any time. I think it's important for there to be a full project discussion of the topics of the day that allow us to make sure that we're governing properly.
Yeah, Commissioner Whitten, I don't know that you sit on either of the committees, do you?
Mr. Almond.
Oh, Commissioner Almond, why don't you want Commissioner?
Hey, Whitney.
I'm sorry.
You know,
I'm sorry.
That's what it is. No, I did not, but I think that is important. And just for me, knowing obviously a lot of deep discussions had the day before, especially we go into our meeting. I think it's important to have that discussion versus walking into our meeting and trying to have that discussion in the middle of our quarterly meeting. So I think that that's very important to have. And it seems like the timing of those meetings has been good for most, right? Having that the day before, for the most part.
As far as I'm aware of, yeah. Okay, Commissioner Coben, I saw that you were off mute for a moment.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
If you're asking me what I think about the committees, I think they're fantastic. And I really appreciate the presentations. I feel like, yes, Vernon is correct. We do a deep dive, but we get to know the staff better in areas that we might see in quarterly meetings. And finally, I think it brings us closer to the campuses, which is really the reason that we're here. I think they're a great addition, and I hope that we continue doing it.
It's, you know, in the two meetings that we've had, the November meeting and I guess the January meeting, it seemed to help our meetings run a little bit more smoothly just from a perspective of what the recommendations are. Secretary Hargett, do you have any thoughts on this since you're still on the line?
Of course, I'm biased, but I think they turned out to be a pretty positive thing. Frankly, a lot more robust discussion. I think it allows the commissioners to be a lot more engaged and thinking bigger than what we have in the past. So I'm certainly supportive of continuing.
Okay, wonderful. Well, then I think that it sounds like unanimously that we are all interested in continuing with that, with those committees. And so, again, we'll have some more updated conversation in our commission meeting next week, and then ask Dr. Gentile and team to create those charters pending our conversation after our meeting next week.
Great.
Any other business that you all would like to talk about this morning?
No, just want to notify you that I will miss next week's meeting due to an unresolvable conflict. So I really miss I hate missing the meetings, and will miss being with each of you.
Well, we will miss you, Vernon, for sure. But I'm pretty sure Commissioner Almond and myself can take it. Although now we've gone from 4 to 2 for next week, so I'm not too sure. Anyway, so this concludes our agenda. If there's no other further business, we stand adjourned.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
all.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
great day.
You too. Bye.